Hello Internet, welcome back to Thrums to Twilight, the channel where I, Vincent, talk to you, the Abyss, about books, movies, music I enjoy, find interesting, or a combination of the two. The global situation being what it is, with America intent on committing war crimes, starting various illegal wars at the same time, dragging the United Kingdom after it like a poodle as ever into illegal conflicts, the British government now using terrorist charges to arrest legitimate protesters. I've become nostalgic for a simpler time, the time of the Iraq War, when Tony Blair first started his crusade in the Middle East. In my nostalgia for this simpler time, with George W. Bush being what we thought was the worst imaginable American president, I have been going back to Mos Def's 2004 album, The New Danger. Now, The New Danger was not very well received at the time, but I really, really liked it. I, in fact, had the inlay on the wall of my damp, cold flat where I lived with my serious girlfriend at the time while I was working in a bookshop in North London. But going back to the album now, what I think is really fascinating about it is that it was almost a different album. And I think it was a moment where Mos Def almost did something that could have had interesting repercussions for music that never really happened. In 1999, he released his first and most acclaimed solo album, Black on Both Sides, which is also a fantastic album. And on that record, he has a song, Rock and Roll. And the song Rock and Roll is a protest song about the theft of black music and culture by white American capitalism and also by the British invasion bands. He sings in the song about how hip hop and rock and roll come from the same source, which is slave songs, spirituals, and he sings this song with references to blues and spirituals in the way that he sings it. But he's singing about how Elvis Presley ain't got no soul, Chuck Berry was rock and roll, you may dig on the Rolling Stones, but they didn't come up with that style on their own. Talking about how, Nina Simone and James Brown and Bo Diddley are rock and roll. And he mentions some white rock bands by name who were using hip hop influences at the time, like Korn and Limp Bizkit. And he says that these things don't interest him because he's listening to Jimi Hendrix and Bad Brains. And then at the end of the song, there's like a hardcore punk outro where he's shouting, "Who am I? Rock and roll. Who am I? Rock and roll." The thing is that the mixing on this section of the song is terrible. Like, there is a proper hardcore punk music in the background, but they've mixed the vocal with loads of echo and delay on it extremely loud, so it's basically obliterating the music behind it. It ends up being kind of a gimmick. But Mos Def, or Yasiin Bey as he's now called, put his money where his mouth was, and he put together a rock outfit that was called Blackjack Johnson. So Black on Both Sides came out in 99, and for years there was no new Mos Def project, no new music from Yasiin Bey. But there were rumours that he was working on a rock project and that he was going to release an album with his band, Blackjack Johnson. When the album came out in 2004, though, it wasn't that, it was a new solo project. But The New Danger starts off as if it's going to be a Blackjack Johnson album. First track on the album, it's like a sort of smoky soul track with piano, drums, it has some guitar laced in. It's called Boogeyman, and it sets up one of the themes of the album, which is Mos Def taking back this idea of like the black American man as the boogeyman, the man everyone's scared of, and playing with the term boogie as also like dance, to be somebody who is, beautiful, desirable, seductive. And he sings this song of, desire and lust and beauty. It's like in this world between soul music and rock music, and almost could be on a sort of experimental indie rock album. And his vocals just beautiful. So this is a perfect introductory track, except that the second track is like an alternative introductory track. It starts off with a guitar riff. It's called Freaky Black Greetings, and it's your first meeting with the band Blackjack Johnson. It has a pretty heavy riff, it's rocking, and it has Mos Def kind of ad-libbing over the top, and you're waiting for the song to start, but it never does. It's just this riff, and Mos Def kind of shouting some words, and they never wrote a song, they just kind of were jamming out. So I feel like this song could also have been an intro song and the intro to the band, and it's followed up with a song called Ghetto Rock, which is more of a sort of hip-hop rock crossover. It's very groovy. And in this song, Mos Def is like connecting slave songs, spirituals, rock music, and hip hop again, but he's talking about ghetto rock, and he's kind of introducing, I think, like his vision of I am rock and roll, and I'm making rock music for my people, and for Brooklyn, for the American black experience, my version of rock music, the alternative to nu metal at the time. And it has a great verse on it where he's bragging about being the earth, wind, fire, and the thunder. You don't believe that? Go ask my mother. Don't believe that shit. Believe what you wanna. It's just very kind of stylish and enjoyable. And then it's followed with this track, Zimzalabim, which opens with an incredible, like, crunching, very attention grabbing riff, and then turns into what I think is maybe one of the best rap rock songs ever, and certainly one of Yasiin Bey's best songs. Zimzalabim is like a hip hop track, but it's also a rock song. And unlike a lot of rap rock, the guitars are used really intentionally. There's loads of different guitar parts, and they're kind of mixed differently, and they have different guitar sounds. So it puts a lot of rock music to shame in its creativity. It's like applying hip hop production to a rock sound. And this track also has just an incredible verse where he has this kind of threat that he's making to everybody whose music he thinks is bad. So at this point, like, you're getting the sense of what the Black Jack Johnson album experience would be like. But then suddenly on the New Danger, they drop in, or on the original version, subsequent versions haven't had it, but on the CD that I had, they dropped in a track produced by Kanye West that genuinely I didn't ever think was very good. And then this is followed by two more tracks that are Black Jack Johnson songs. So it's like it was just interrupted by this one kind of Kanye production. And you get the song Blue Black Jack, which is a blues track. It's a blues track with a drum machine where Mos Def, Yasiin Bey, is singing about Jack Johnson, the boxer, and using him kind of as like an image of protest. And it has guitar solos all over it from Sugar Otis. And I like Sugar Otis, but the solo guitar on this track is quite obviously improvised, and the whole song sort of has the feeling of a blues jam, which would be cool if it wasn't for the fact that the following track is kind of even more unfinished and also a blues jam with a lot of guitar soloing. So it's kind of at this point that you get the feeling that Black Jack Johnson, the band, kind of lost their way and never really managed to finish their songs. And from there on, you never really hear them again. They pop up on the track War at the end, and War, by the way, is a great song to listen to at this point in history. It's Yasiin Bey talking about how war is just an extension of the same colonial political processes that are applied also within the United States, and it's a global economic phenomenon. And then at the end, doing a kind of parody of Rage Against the Machine, where he's embodying kind of capitalist greed. It's a great track. But the rest of the album is really strange. There's like a kind of new take on old school hip hop in Close Edge. There's some Marvin Gaye sampling at the end where Mos Def is just kind of singing about infidelity and then kind of doing some slightly heavy-handed social criticism rap. And then there's some like pretty straight hip hop tracks. There's a sort of seduction song called The Panties. In general, like a real weird, eclectic, mixed bag of an album. They didn't sort of spread the Black Jack Johnson stuff out over the album, so I always felt like it was like almost a Black Jack Johnson EP. And I think it's like Mos Def and his friends, when they got together in the studio and they tried to make this rock project, they didn't quite know how to write songs in that stylistic genre, so they approached it kind of as a jam. And this is just all my theory, but if he'd have like applied his rap writing and his rap songwriting skills to that music and made a whole album in the style of Zimzalabim, I think it might have made a real impact on how music sounded in the years that followed. I just feel like it's like a kind of the road not taken. Black Jack Johnson as a project, this moment where Mos Def could have really proved his point that he was rock and roll. I'm glad that we got a little taste of it, but I would have been so interested to hear what the whole album would have sounded like if he'd actually done it. Now, if you're at all familiar with my videos, you might realize that I generally tend to like things that are kind of like messy and overambitious and maybe not totally realized, but they're just kind of unique. So for that reason, this is my favorite album by Yasiin Bey, by Mos Def. But if you've listened to it, if you have an opinion about it, or if you are interested in any of the other things I've touched on during this video, do jump in the comments, let me know what you think, and I'd love to hear from you about it. If not, I'll be back soon talking about some books, talking about some movies, and I'll see you there.